Hey everybody, drill pal Jason the E-Goings coming right back at you. I'm coming in full effect. That was really stupid. I don't know why I said it that way. I thought I was trying to be cool. Anywho, here's the deal. Life gets really lifey sometimes, so I've not done such a great job of putting these up here like I've told you I would do daily. I'm trying to get better at that. But man, things come up, things happen, and I just don't get it done like I would like to, and so I apologize for that. It's not because I just don't have a good reason. Honestly, I just don't have a good reason. I still spend time in the Word daily. I just haven't taken the time to record these videos daily like I would like to. And so today is Monday, the April 9th. And I'm going to do my best to put these on here daily. I'm not promising I can do that 100% every time daily, but I'm going to try my best. I have a crazy, busy, hectic schedule, and so no excuse. I'm just going to do my best. So we had a good one today. Sorry, it's been such a long layoff since our last one. I don't know. I have to laugh at myself. Yes, feel free to laugh too, but I don't know if you can see this this calendar back here over my shoulder. For some reason, whenever I'm making these videos, I want to make sure that my head is completely blocking this row of dates. Don't ask me why, but when I see like part of this number up here, I feel like I need to move and block it off. I don't want to leave anything partially open and exposed, but that's just because I'm weird. So if you see me moving around a lot, it's because I'm noticing these things in the background, and I'm trying to make sure, I don't want to leave part of a row covered up. I need to cover up the whole row. Anyways, that's dumb. I'm just going to move this thing like this so I don't have to worry about it. All right, well, let's get started. We're in Matthew chapter 7 today. Got some awesome stuff for us. Probably one of the most quoted scriptures, which also means it's one of the most misquoted or misunderstood or misused scriptures in the Bible, and so we'll get into that. So let's get started. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Do not judge. Woo! Good way to start. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. Do not judge, so that you won't be judged. For you will be judged by the same standard with which you judge others, and you will be measured by the same measure that you use. Why do you look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but don't notice the beam of wood in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take that splinter out of your eye? But look, there's a beam of wood in your own eye. Hypocrite, first take the beam of wood out of your own eye, and then you can see clearly to take the splinter out of your brother's eye. Don't give what is holy to dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under your feet, turn, and tear you to pieces. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be opened. But who among you, if his son asks him for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? Some weird stuff we're jumping into here. If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Therefore, whatever you want others to do for you, do also the same for them, for this is the law and the prophets. Verse 13. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who go through it. How narrow is the gate and difficult the road that leads to life, and few find it. Be on your guard against the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravaging wolves. You'll recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? In the same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. A good tree can't produce bad fruit, neither can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not produce good fruit, is cut down and thrown into the fire. So you'll recognize them by their fruit. Oh, text. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, and do many miracles in your name? Then I will announce to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you lawbreakers. There's some important stuff in this few verses here, 10 verses here. This section of Matthew is pretty deep stuff. Verse 24, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, the rivers rose, and the winds blew and pounded that house. Yet it didn't collapse because its foundation was on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain fell, the rivers rose, the winds blew and pounded that house, and it collapsed. And it collapsed with a great crash. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were astonished at his teaching, because he was teaching them like one who had authority and not like their scribes. Which I find interesting. The scribes are supposed to be these super smart guys, but yet everyone recognized them as a bunch of blowhardy guys who had all these answers, but they didn't live what they taught. And when Jesus, and it's almost like everyone listened to the scribes and just let it go in one ear and out the other. But when Jesus talked, even though he talked in simple, plain language that people like shepherds and fishermen and slaves and laborers, not the upper class, but he spoke in a way that they could all understand. And they recognized the way he spoke as being, as having some authority, and they didn't recognize the people who were supposedly the experts as people who had authority. So let's go back to the first section of this passage here, the first few verses in Matthew chapter 7, when it's talking about judging. Like I said, this Matthew 7:1 is probably one of the most quoted passage or verses in the entire Bible. Do not judge so that you won't be judged. And like I said, I think it's one of the most misused passages in the Bible also, because we don't apply it the way it's meant to be applied. A lot of times we take that to mean we kind of twist it to mean that, well, we can't tell someone else that what they're doing is wrong if we've done something wrong also. And the problem with that line of thinking is that we are holding them to our standard, right? So I can't say, well, you shouldn't do this because I don't do it. The standard isn't what I do or don't do. The standard is what God has laid out before us. So when God says, husbands, you shouldn't look at your neighbor's wife, you shouldn't covet your neighbor's wife. You know, when we think about the things that are sins, that's the standard we're being held to. And so then he goes into this weird passage about splinters in people's eye and logs in people and beams of wood in people's eye. But the important part here is that he doesn't say don't judge at all. See, when you look into this, he's saying that, yeah, there is a splinter possibly in your brother's eye. When you see someone who's living in sin or living outside of the way God designed us to live, it's important and it's appropriate for us to point that out to that person. Not because we want them to be like us, but because we want them to be like Christ. Christ is the standard. And so that's what he's saying is that, hey, there's a problem with this person, but don't come down on this person, with fire and brimstone and calling them out and calling them all kinds of things until you've looked at your own life first. Yes, they have an issue that needs to be addressed and needs to be resolved. And in Scripture, it even tells us that at a certain point, someone might need to be removed from the congregation if they continue in sin. I was talking about sexual misconduct in that instance, and unapologetic, and they're unremorseful in refusing to change their life in that respect. But it does say that if a person is unrepentant and unwilling, that they need to be removed from the congregation or excommunicated. You'll hear that word a lot. And that's in order that they don't bring other people in the body down. So the important thing here is not that we don't judge, because when we say, well, you can't judge me until you fix yourself, well, you're judging me for judging you, right? You're telling me I'm not the right person to be judging, right? And so there's all this judgment going on. The important thing is your attitude when you are addressing someone who may have an open sin that needs to be addressed, needs to be acknowledged, needs to be corrected. The important thing here is that we need to look at our own lives and see, man, do I have unconfessed? Do I have sin that is out in the open that people can see? I need to get that fixed with me before I go and address this person. Or maybe I need to take someone with me when I go to this person and say, hey, something's up here. And my attitude needs to be not of one who's better. I shouldn't come to someone saying, oh, I'm better than you, looking down my nose at someone like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've done this, this, and this. Pick whatever sin you want to pick, or whatever lifestyle choice you want to pick. The important thing is that I don't come to them like I'm better than them, but I come to them for their own good, because there's something in their life that I've noticed that's pulling them from Christ and not pushing them towards Christ. And so I want to do it out of love for that person and out of love for God, because God has pointed that out to me. And I want that person to get right with God. I want them to fix their relationship with God, not to benefit me in any way, shape, or form, but to benefit them, to help correct their relationship with God. Because a lot of times we don't recognize or we refuse to recognize when we've done something wrong and we're so far along, and maybe we haven't suffered any consequences yet. A lot of times we fool ourselves into thinking we're getting away with something, and that, it must not be that big a deal because God's not rained down lightning and thunder on me yet for this sin. A lot of times we don't realize that, and then we need someone to come and point things like that out to us. And so my attitude as a believer should be, when someone comes to me and has an issue with me, I can't brush them off and push them aside and say, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. Otherwise, God would have done something by now. I need to be willing to hear what they have to say and look at my own life and look at my heart and see, how can I correct that? So that should be my attitude on the receiving end of this judgment. And my attitude on the giving end of the judgment is not that I'm holding them up to the standard of life that I have, but the standard of life that Christ has set out. And that should always be our standard in our own lives, and that should be the expectation we have for those around us. So, and then we get into the asking and seeking and searching and knocking, and that's pretty simple. God's saying, hey, come look for me. I'm not going to hide myself from you. There's no reason to hide. And guess what? If you come searching for me, and you come searching with an honest heart and a heart that's willing to please me and willing to give everything to me, I'm going to give you everything you're looking for. That's one of the things I like. And then he gets into if your kid asks for a fish, gives them a snake, or if they ask for bread, will give them a stone. And he's just saying, hey, I am God, the very definition of everything that is good. And when we think of what is good, the definition of God as being good is so far beyond what we can imagine. And he's saying, listen, you're a person who has sin in your life. You've messed up over and over again. But when your kids come to you asking for bread, you don't give them a rock, or if they ask for a fish, you don't give them a snake. You give them good gifts. Well, guess what? I love you infinitely more than you could ever possibly love those around you. And if you're willing to give gifts like that, guess how much I'm willing to give you if you come and honestly and earnestly seek me. I'm ready to pour out the oceanfuls of grace and mercy and love and tenderness and knowledge and understanding and wisdom. I want you to have all of those things. And so when you come seeking me, be ready, because I'm ready to give those things to you. And then we get into the entering the kingdom, and it's kind of a warning for us here that just because we think we're okay doesn't necessarily mean we're going to heaven. Basically, he's laying out in this passage that it's a pretty small number of people that get to go to heaven. It's not everybody who's good goes to heaven and everybody who's bad goes to hell. It's nothing like that. He says the way is broad and that leads to destruction, which means there's a lot of people on that road heading to destruction. And a lot of those people think they're going in the right direction because they're good people and they're nice people. And whether you're good or bad or evil or whatever is not the issue. It's whether or not you've given your heart to Christ. And if you have, now all of a sudden you find yourself swimming upstream against all these people that that their lives are taking them towards destruction. It's the path of least resistance going towards destruction. And so now you're swimming upstream up against this current of people that have blinders on only themselves, and they'll just keep going straight ahead, not realizing the path that they're on. And when we give our lives to Christ, now we realize we've got to turn and swim against this current, and our road is a lot narrower, and we're going to have bumps and we're going to have bruises because we're going to bump into all these people and all these things going the opposite direction. And so that's why he says that the way is narrow and it's difficult. He says just because people, and that's how he finishes up that section, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom. He'll say that on that day there will be people that say, hey, didn't I teach in your name? Didn't I prophesy in your name? Did I do miracles and cast out demons in your name? And God's going to say, yeah, but did you actually know me? Did you really know me? Or did you just use my name to get what you wanted? And he's going to say, depart from me, I never knew you. Just because you know my name and you can speak and say my name does not mean that you know me. Just like I know a lot of things about certain athletes. Kevin Durant's one of my faves. LeBron James is one of my faves. There are a lot of things I know about them, and I can rattle off a list of things about them, but that doesn't mean I know them. It doesn't mean I can come over to their house because I know all these things about them. The issue is whether or not I know them, not know about them. And that's what Jesus is saying here, that in the end there are going to be a lot of people disappointed because they thought they were doing it right, because they wanted to take the easy way out and use the stats and use the knowledge without having this part, without knowing Christ, without taking that knowledge and letting it affect their lives and change the direction of their lives. So, all right, well, that's all we've got for today. Super pumped to see you guys this Wednesday. Like I said, I'm going to do better at trying to post these every day, but life gets busy, so I'll do my best. The good news is they're saved on the internet, so if I can't do it every day, you can still wait till a few are on there and start watching them every day. I love you guys. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. We got a cool lesson coming up on Wednesday about ministry, and I'm looking forward to it and what our roles are in ministry. Love you guys. I'll be praying for you this week. I'll see you Wednesday. Bye.